was disallowed in that private POW camp that people assume is government, prisons. They are private human trafficking tribunals under Knights Templars and Knights of Malta, funded by the coup of 1871 under the U.S. democracy order of feudal law imposed upon the land. All imposters. So now it takes the Pope to tell you what we've been telling you all the time. Do you understand? Anyway, so let's continue. So all other federal agency personnel are limited to unarmed service until further notice. That means they ain't got no damn business even walking around here with guns, doing stuff to you. Now, notice how this continues. We direct the Joint Chiefs of Staff to communicate these first two general civil orders directly to Mr. Obama, the members of the U.S. Congress. Now you see why Boehner left his office crying when the Pope told him, pick up the chicken bones, get your ass out of here, take your boy. He came up, I think I feel like retiring. No, the Pope set him down. And then others who don't understand, how come Obama keeps playing golf? It's over. At what point you don't understand this? Anyway, the administrators of all federal agencies, quote unquote, and the members of the Supreme Court, and those acting as governors to compel their rapid understanding and cooperation. Now you understand why they assassinated Scalia? Put a pillow over his face with Masonic signal of muffling. Because they're trying to take these middle-class Europeans' guns. And he said, no, you can't do that. All of a sudden he had a heart attack with all his clothes on, unwrinkled. They say he died of a heart attack. I think if you choke a dog and you say he had difficulty breathing, there's a distinction between murder and you have difficulty breathing. I guess if you press the windpipe, you have difficulty breathing. Naturally you die, but it ain't necessarily natural causes.
Naturally died.
Yeah, stop breathing like this. All right. Any expense or damage incurred by these organic states of the American or any American state citizen as a result of actions undertaken by any federal agency personnel acting as armed mercenaries on American state soil will be understood as a result of violent crimes committed against the peaceful inhabitants of the land, and will incur immediate judgment liquidating the assets of the International Monetary Fund and the Federal Reserve in payment of the stipulated reparations. Reparations? This is when they start discussing reparations. You see the issues being presented? Such crimes shall be considered contract default, increasing the public debt subject to bounty. So is bounty hunters after them? Oh, all right. Any and all corporate officers of the United States, all capital letters, or any successor organizations inheriting federal service contracts who support, condone, or promote such crimes against the American states or American state citizens shall be subject to arrest and prosecution for commercial and violent crimes. All foreign officials operating as elected or appointed officials of the United States of America, minor, who support, condone, or promote such crimes against the American states or American state citizens shall be subject to arrest, confiscation of their assets, and deportation to Puerto Rico, Guam, or such other quote-unquote states as may be willing to receive them. Now they start talking about deportation, aren't they? Aren't they? Isn't it? Who's they talking about? These Europeans who've been operating all these corporate agencies pretending to be government, who've been causing injury on the true Americans. Now, Such foreign officials, quote unquote, include members of the American and British bar associations who were licensed to act as privateers against the interest of the American states and the American state citizens from 1845 to 2013. Remember the motu proprio? 2013, we talked about that in 2013, warning the people. This is apparently a backup letter from the Pope. In flagrant breach of trust, all such licenses are now extinguished. Members of the Bar Association are required to cease and desist assaults against the American states and American state citizens and shall be subject to arrest, confiscation, and deportation otherwise. Now you see why you notify the operative archbishop, chaplain of the territories under Regency operations, because there's a civil war going on. You have to notify them because they're really the Don behind all your politicians. So what happens if you don't notify the Don of the area? You've not communicated with the highest authority. You're not looking at the moral principle, you're looking at the real politics. This is the real politics of the world. Do you understand? Failure to use it is an abandonment. Are we clear? Now, so as you know, that most people here are not aware that the American Bar Association, being a branch of the British Bar Association, are deputy knights for the Pope under Inquisition operations. Now you know why your Zodiac Constitution that CMA registered in the Library of Congress say that when you hire a lawyer, you give them your birthright. That's what it's based on. Knowing the real politics. You see the point? But those who don't know the real politics think it's a mere opinion. You understand? That as soon as you hire one, you gave them your birthright, because their mission was and is to overthrow the Republic's Constitution under the guise of working for your rights. They're actually what? Bounty hunters with ties to enforce the Spanish Inquisition, which is what? The Inquisition against the Moors, which is the foundation of the entire world's politics for the last few centuries, worldwide. Failure to know the real history is on you, because you're still required to honor your mothers and your fathers to have any right of estate. This is why they put the European family names on you, why they took your name and your religion, and introduced the nom de guerre, like Negro, black, and colored, all of which makes you non-descendable. And this is why the scholars sit around arguing colors and what it could mean and etymologically mean that, when the real deal is a descendability act, a descendability issue. Failure to recognize that is on you. Since you say you know God, Jesus, Allah, Moses, Muhammad, and everything, you certainly should know yourself. Therefore, ignorance of the law is no excuse. Well, I didn't know. No excuse. You talk about, well, God really going to kick the devil's butt on Thursday, sell your bike, and the rapture and all that stuff, then you certainly should know what's going on this planet. Or you know when Nibiru's coming through the 13th planet, you know, Planet X and all this stuff, the Greys and the lizard people, and you don't know what's going on this planet, you're incompetent. And you're full of crap. Now you understand why so-called black Masons are called clandestine? They got a Moorish fez, learn a Ruftum Albitus, and then come out here and still call themselves black after being brought into them lodges. They're clandestine. Do you understand? Meaning they're frauds. Anyway, in so much as corporate officers operating the United States of America Incorporated and the United States, small case, uppercase, so he's exposing the whole of Lakers operations, transmitting utility, isn't he? And contrived under conditions of fraud and semantic deceit to revenue the estates of the American states and living American state citizens, bringing you out of the corpse into life. To the foreign jurisdiction of the United States of America, minor, they are found guilty of capital crimes, including acts of fraud and treason committed between 1933 and 1945, and are condemned posthumously insomuch as elected officials operating the United States of America minor have similarly committed war crimes against the American states and their peaceful inhabitants during the same time period, they stand condemned posthumously. No enforcement upon any American state or American state citizen is owed as a result of any act of any Congress operating as the sovereign government of the United States of America minor, nor as the board of directors or board of trustees of any incorporated entity whatsoever. All these estates and estates, small case, uppercase, erroneously believed to represent the American states and American state citizens, and which were conveyed by fraud and legal deceit to the United States of America minor, and more recently to the city-state of the United Nations, are revenued without exception to the geographically defined American states and the American state citizens, where they shall remain in perpetuity as assets belonging to the rightful and lawful beneficiaries. Now, in reference to this being he's the don of all these corporations, do you have to authenticate some birth certificate or file some UCC financial statement in order to claim the right of estate to the CUSIC number established by them and Roosevelt under that operation of House Joint Resolution 192, 73rd Congress? No. By the post-owned letter? No, you don't. It's BS. They're buying time. It doesn't count. It's dead. This is why when people keep running after these venues, they're just giving him time. Because he's not going to honor any of them because he's rogue. They're not government, they're a rogue operation, acting as government. The sooner you get that through your head, the sooner you will change the mental that you have when you're communicating with them, which I was talking to you, when they stole your stuff. Concept. All legal fiction, look at this. All legal fiction entities, they talk about all the different forms of straw men, ens legis, transmitting utilities, etc. However structured, that means he's covering all ground of the ens legis operations. And named after American states and American state citizens are returned to them and their control free and clear of any debt, promise, encumbrance, or obligation alleged against them as a result of false claims made in their behalf, quote unquote, by officers of the United States of America Incorporated and the United States Incorporated, uppercase, small case, or by any foreign officials operating the United States of America minor or the United Nations city-state falsely claiming to represent them or have jurisdiction over them. Now you understand why they blocked that? Right. All right. Now, despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition against both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state among the nations of the world. Instead of freeing who? African Americans. Did he say Europeans? Did he say U.S. citizens? Did he say visitors? Did he say grays, lizards, reptilians? He says, this is the Pope, keep your mind. Despite every act of abolition and declaration of prohibition of both peonage and slavery, it has been the policy of the U.S. government to enslave its citizens and to operate as a rogue state amongst the nations of the world instead of freeing African Americans. The sum total of the Civil War is telling you the truth about the Civil War and what it's about. This is a well-kept Masonic secret. Was to vastly expand public sector ownership of slaves, giving rise to the outrageous and improper claims that have been made against the American states and the American state citizens that we are dealing with today. It is uniquely fitting that the Grand Army of the Republic is recalled to settle this circumstance in favor of the people. Attachments, civil orders, Anna Maria Wilhelma, Hanna Sophia Ritzinger von Ritzenstein von Letlow Verbeck, private attorney in service to Pope Francis, and documents, hold on, Related, the United States isn't a country, it's a corporation. The hidden Vatican Crown Empire. Now do you understand why people at this area that they call Washington, D.C. can't vote? Because it's a feudal order and part of the Trinity operation of Spanish Inquisition. They can't contest. They'll give them all kinds of political reasons. Well, see, the people in Washington, D.C. can't vote because of the political policy of the beast of the people fetcher. No, it's because of Inquisition operations. They're slaves. Do you understand? And they give them all kinds of arguments and they ain't figured it out yet, but they can't vote. Do you understand how things are in people's faces, and because they won't study, they won't read, they accept any kind of story that's told to them to justify obvious BS, and they've been getting away with it. So what does it take? It takes the Pope to expose it. The dawn of the earth. Do you understand?
Question.
Open floor, give it Brother Mike.
And he's exposing it simply because they coming down on him now.
Yeah, now, all right, give him Mike. And this is why it's important for you, us plurally, which many of our people are not aware of what is called the White Dragon Society. And the White Dragon Society is comprised of ancient Manchurian families coming to reclaim their gold that has supported the United States Corporation Company for the last 100 and some odd years, including Russia, who came to the Gulf of Mexico near the Yucatan, true capital area of the empire, to preserve the integrity of the treaty operations at here when, under the secret Treaty of Verona, the British came here to overthrow the operations of the legitimate republic, which most people don't know that history. So now they have to come again to what? Neutralize these European colonists who've not only contaminated the Aboriginal people, but now have contaminated the entire world. Are we clear? So they're being put in checkmate. Are we clear? By necessity. Are we clear? So for those who know the real history, this is why you have to look at Pope Francis as acting as an angel of the light, but with a little encouragement. Meaning that, you know, it's hard to sit back in your lounge chair when they got candles under it. You know, you can get comfortable for 2 minutes, and after a while, you know, a little bit of flame,
Well, as the prophet said,
it animates you. Just say it animates you. You know, like when they have them flamethrower toilets, make it quick.
would that be like when the prophet said that you won't do right except at the point of the sword?
Yes, and also what the prophet said and told you ahead of time, that the time will come, the Europeans are going to try to starve you out, and that your brothers will have come from the east to rescue you. And he also said to you, the time will come that you'll be walking down the street and you see a $20 bill on the ground and won't take the time to bend over and pick it up. And he says, industry will come to a screeching halt, but when it starts up again, it will be in favor of the Asiatics. That's why you see them. See, what you've been told ahead of time. So that means prepare your family. And also, it's telling you, stop vesting in these institutions because you're only giving the dark priest time, because you're the heir to the world's largest estate. And every time you sanction them, you are what? Under the rule of heirship, what? Instructing the fiduciary. This is why you see the Europeans say that these so-called blacks are consenting to their slavery. They know they're miseducated, but they don't know the rule of estate. They don't know that this is a corporation operating their estate, that they're under occupation. So when they keep agreeing to stuff, even when they vote, they're sanctioning these imposters thinking that they're government, which they're using. This is why they invest all their finance in military, because they knew the time would come you'd find this out. Are we clear? Now you see why the Pope's saying disarm them? Now you understand the Civil War. Now you understand Jade Helm 15. has multiple levels of operation, but is not told to the public? Because you still have a rogue operation amongst the rogue. Meanwhile, they're under heat under the White Dragon Society, which includes the Red Dragon Society, Green and Blue Dragon Society, which is ancient Manchurian families, and they got over 7 million assassins. No, not quite 7 million. Between 6 and 7 was really about 6.5 in average of perfected assassins loosed on the planet. Do you understand? Then when you understand that, you understand why your so-called, this is how they'll list it if you punch it in. Wealthy white Americans denouncing their U.S. citizenship and nationalizing in other countries, taking their wealth with them. Then you understand House Joint Resolution 2847, where they're going after them all around the world, and that they're disallowing any opening of any accounts by these people in other countries. Now you understand what that's all about. I mean, they ain't gonna let them escape. Do you understand? Now, meanwhile, again, you're still the heirs. What's the problem going on here? Most of the heirs have not been informed because their leaders are COINTELPRO. So the Pope backs up no dwelling. See the point? And this is why I say, if you took the names off his attorneys, and when she signed it with red thumbprint.
I have it right here.
Yeah, red thumbprint. And what is that a signal of? The nobles. You comprehend? And then when we give people their proclamation papers, tell them sign it in red ink, how come red ink? Which means they don't know their own history. Do you understand? However, we got to bring them up. Because the world is moving on and they're like behind the curve. They're behind the 8 ball. They don't know this man getting ready to try to kill them off, and they sitting around, well, I don't know. Well, I was thinking about it, and one of these days, and they give them these dark police time, and they're going to try to kill them off before they wake up. This is what these camps are all about. This is what the chemtrails are all about. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Meanwhile, these people don't know the difference between a country and a corporation. We're talking adults. Think America's a country. Child, 3rd grade knows America's 2 continents, an isthmus and a multiplicity of islands, and their adult parents come out, American country, the American president. Total incompetence, which makes them not descendable in law. Do you understand the importance of the Moorish Divine National Movement and its real work and the restoration of the lost estate? And guess what happens if it's not done? They're going to be eliminated. That's why when you look at King Alfred, they're using that same principle that they learned in the Second World War. Is that not true? In King Alfred, aren't they using the exact principles of elimination of some other people that was claiming to be somebody that they're not? And they invited them to barbecue parties. Yes, and they heard about a nationality, didn't they? Even though they made it up, didn't they? And they used that pattern in Executive Order 11490 to eliminate some contemporary people that are claiming to be somebody that they're not. And most of them are asleep and don't even know. They're sitting around looking for J-O-B, Job, in the Bible, Job, 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 job. Think they're going to get a job? No, they're not. And anybody graduating from college is going to have to go home in their mom's and pop's garage, if they still have one. Next step, elimination. Any more questions, y'all? Islam, Brother Frank. Give Brother Frank the mic, please.
Yeah,
I just want to remind everybody, now notice that this is redundant because we've done this quite a few times, but it's necessary to purge the people because unless they know these things, they can't know the politics. You can't know the politics, are we clear? Continue, Brother Frank.
Yeah, a lot of people take this letter for not being authentic.
Yes.
But lately, especially on the internet, it's people, they just, Alex Jones, everybody talking about the Pope's letter to Obama now. So it's coming mainstream. It's almost going to hit the news soon at the rate that this information is being distributed through the internet. One more thing, out of the whole pie for us as a people, what percentage of that pie going to be left when all this is said and done? Do you have
This
any
is
idea?
what they plan. This is what they plan. This is what's called Agenda 21. They plan to kill, their plan is to kill about 90 billion
Wow.
off. And their plan is to pretty much exterminate the North Gate. That's North America. This is another reason why they set that, that nuclear weapon in the water off Japan, because, you know, they stole all the government funds. That's what that was really about. And then the bomb that they set off on Haiti was the gold contract that was presented to the Clintons. That was, both of those were extortion plans.
The Clintons?
Yes, Hillary's brother. The gold, because remember, all of the gold of the countries is being repatriated. This is also why they dropped them buildings in New York when the representatives of Germany sent their ambassadors to New York to see if their gold was still intact, and they asked for their gold back after the ministries found out that they were going to interrupt the pipelines coming from Iran to Iraq to Syria to the waterfront. And also with the new deposits off Palestine that Israel wants, which is a U.S. colony corporation. And so their interference with that, because Germany has over 5,000 corporate contracts with Russia, which would kill their economy. And so they told them, dumbasses, give us our gold back. And so Germany, being #1 ally of the United States Corporation, keep this in mind, sent representatives to New York. They wouldn't even let them see the gold. 2 months later, they dropped them buildings and say that Arabs did it. The whole world knows it's false, except the people here. Are we clear?
You can see how you can see.
Yes, we're talking the real politics in the real world. And you know what I just said, the masses here in this jurisdiction are both unaware of that, not knowing that the rest of the world long been aware of it. And this is what's going on right now with the constant dissolution of even the Euro operations. And also why the news is being censored here. Problem and point again with us. You, being nationals, are being made aware of this. And also, it is declared responsibility of all churches and civic organizations to dispense this information amongst the people at all costs. And this is also why Obama addresses the rights of indigenous people, because that is the requirement by the nations of the world for all church and civic organizations in the Western Hemisphere to dispense this information. But notice how empty this room is. And notice how this information is not being dispensed amongst other orders. It's called rogue operations, isn't it? Do you think they're going to go out without charge? I doubt it. It's just as the swing takes place, and when the things really get hot, and you know, this is why it's interesting that the people, in order to render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, are going to have to receive some pain on an unimaginable level, because they're hard-hearted and rebellious. And since they honor not their mothers and fathers, their estates will be taken, and they will be on the curb. And those who show no loyalty later on, they're going to be killed. To put it bluntly. Because one, you don't want them near your babies, so you want to let Rome have them. And they think that Rome will give them a peanut butter sandwich, not knowing that Rome's going to eliminate them. What do you do with Judases? Are there retirement homes in Florida for spies and overseers? Have you ever heard of, you know, I know this overseer used to be, he's a black leader, and he's in retirement now in Florida. They don't have retirement communities for spies and overseers. They're called, in military terms, neutralized, which means they stop breathing. Get it, Brother Mike. Whether accidentally or otherwise. But of course, unfortunately, some things have to come to those points in order to liberate humanity. I.e., the dark priesthood themselves must numerically start disappearing. So they'll be hanging in their garages with no chairs for wondering, how did he get up there and hang himself? He got scared, so. And a few other things, shoot themselves in the head with 19 nails from a nail gun called suicide. You know, those kind of things, flying from buildings and stuff. How they were going so well with their stock, they just couldn't take it because the profits were so deep, so they jump off J.P. Morgan buildings and stuff like that. Little assistance. Go ahead, good brother.
I had a couple.
First question is, on this continent, how many nations do you have?
Help me out next, go right.
On this continent, the Judaized nation, you have Canaan land, Canaan, Canada. United States Corporation operating at Morocco proper, the heartland, and República de Mexico, United States of Mexico.
So what is, for the Constitution for the United States of America Republic?
If you read it, it's actually used universal and is used as a pattern by all republics around the world. And it's stated in war records and in other nation states that it's the world's oldest constitution. And then people say, how can it be? It's only a couple hundred years old. See, now you understand the history that Obama exposed, that the American Constitution is derived from Muslim law. Because Madison and Franklin and all them guys, Adams, are not the founding fathers. You are.
The reason I ask that is because when
It's only two different ones.
the United States, America being a sovereign nation.
Of course, that's what is called the treaty. That's why the Pope is talking about the enforcement of the treaties. Now look at this for your research. Treaty of 1786-87, modified one time, 1836, minor adaptation. 1786, 1787, solidified, confirmed. Then the ordinance of 1787, which determined the operations in the form of government operating at North America. Then the adoption of the Constitution, 1788, solidified 1789. Then George Washington, being the 9th president for the Republic, brought into operations. This is why they won't tell people that he was the 9th president. They tell them he was the first, to hide the history, when the first was John Hanson. Once you understand these things, everything else starts to fall in place. But you, being conscious, know that, where you know that the masses aren't told this information.
I get that, but I was a little confused between.
You're not confused. No, the information that we're giving you synoptically is to remove the confusion. We can't afford for you to be confused. You can't afford to be confused. And though, you know, we can't undo what Rome has done for the last few centuries, we can give people enough key information that it'll liberate a donkey. So if you have a human that has thinking capacities and any capacity whatsoever to read, in spite of the indexus prohibitorum, etc. operations and the book burnings, there's still enough information that even a child can figure out the bull. So we give you this information synoptically. When you internalize it, it pulls wool off your eyes. Now you're in the uncomfortable position because you've been unplugged from the matrix. Now, your only difficulty is handling this truth. And the difficulty is you having the will and capacity to dump your beliefs that you thought were the reality, which is the illusions of the world. Are we clear? So therefore you're brought to an adeptus level, i.e. the level of the priesthood themselves. Therefore they cannot hide, because we just pulled up the blinds. You know, they have the vampire party, right? We have the party for the vampires. Yeah, so the big Don, we have the vampire party. And then somebody in the corner, oh yeah, let's light the candle to the cake. And he's going, no, don't light the candle. Poof. This is what's happening. That's synoptically what's really happening. So the point that I'm making to you, when you have these snippets of information and we give you reference points where you can do some research yourself, you see that the whole thing is a fraud. So now, cutting through the chase, the Pope through his attorney tells you it's a whole fraud. This whole fraud, deceit, that's been operating for the last 150 years, he's telling you bluntly, is based on the enslavement, the bureaucratic enslavement of African Americans. Who's he talking about? The true Moors, the true Americans, Moorish Americans, who've been branded as Negro, black, and colored Christian property, and they thought it was a religion, and it is a political system. You see, but
Is that also referred to as the Great Masonic Secret?
yes, that's why the eye is disconnected from the pyramid on their note. But that's why when you are awakened, the eye of Horus is reattached, meaning that you're conscious, or what is called 360 degrees.
Any more
120,
questions?
120, 120.
Any more questions? This last one.
You said there was a Don in each.
Get in the mic, please. You're talking like this.
You said there was a Don in each territory.
Say it again.
You said there was a Don in each territory earlier.
The Don, when I say the Don, archbishops, just like when you look at the military operations of Executive Order 11490 in King Alfred, do I have time to go to the map? All right.
Black people going down. Earthquake on this landmass.
I can't find it right now, but anyway, let's go to this. Let's go to this just for a minute. Now, this is with someone who knows, right? Because of time factor. So I don't have to go into one of my other things. Now, this is a notification on the claim that's made already. And so this is a letter to Archbishop Chaput. That's in the Philadelphia area. And this is a complaint to him on operations that's taking place with a foreclosure in Philadelphia.
Cool.
Meaning just like they broke the areas into regencies, you know the real politics, so whenever you're doing anything, that you notify the Don, because you know that the Don is unseating the local franchisees, and some of them are resisting, which is what the Civil War is, where the commercial mercenaries, mentioned by the Pope's attorney, are going to be suppressed. So if you don't squeak the wheel, it doesn't get oiled. It also indicates that you don't understand the politics. So we're reminding you of your responsibility to yourself. Are we clear? So if you are doing what you would call a request or a plea to any operations under the Unum Sanctum out of the United States Corporation Minor, they're going to bury it because they're a guilty party. And if you don't know, you're looking at them, oh, I just wrote to government and the government said, you know, that concept, that means you don't understand this thing. See, you understand? So you have to notify the Don of the area so he can encourage them, look stupid, lighten up. You know, we want to deal with you if the Russians don't. Because the P2 Masons is the Vatican's Masons. And the Jesuit is really an army. Anyway, we got to go, you all.
Yep.
Thank you all for coming out and supporting the house.